Welcome to the deep dive. If you've been keeping tabs on the Pi network, or maybe you're just curious about what's new in blockchain,
And you'll definitely want to stick around.
yeah, we're going to unpack some pretty big changes today. Changes making the Pi Mainnet, well, a lot more open.
That's right. It seems like a really intentional push to get more people involved in the Pi Mainnet ecosystem,
Hmm.
and not just existing users, but people who've verified their identity, and even folks who aren't actually Pi users yet,
Okay, so two main things happening then.
pretty much. First up, there's this new way for pioneers who've done their KYC, identity verification to actually activate their Mainnet wallet.
Right, getting them onto Mainnet proper. And the second part.
And secondly, a more straightforward path for brand new people, non-users, to get access through some integrated third-party services.
Interesting. So I guess our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how these changes work, how they're expanding things.
While still keeping that focus on security and, crucially, the KYC standards. You
Mm.
can't just open the floodgates, right?
Exactly. Security's key. So if you're already a pioneer, or maybe just interested in how blockchain access is evolving, this should give you the essentials.
Let's dive in.
Okay, let's start with that first piece, the mainnet wallet activation for pioneers.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean for someone who's, already done their KYC?
Well, this is quite a significant development, actually, for pioneers who've successfully passed identity verification, whether that's full KYC or even most of the tentative KYC stages.
Uh-huh.
They can now go ahead and activate their Mainnet wallet. It's like unlocking the door to the Mainnet ecosystem for them.
And just to be clear, this isn't the same as the full mainnet migration we've been hearing about. That's separate.
Absolutely separate. That's a really crucial distinction. This wallet activation doesn't mean everyone's mined Pi balance is suddenly hitting the Mainnet blockchain.
Right. Because that migration is, well, it's more involved, isn't it?
Exactly. Way more involved. It goes beyond just checking IDs. There are complex analyses, checks, making sure the right amount of Pi goes to the right real people.
People who haven't tried to game this system.
Precisely. So decoupling the wallet activation lets millions who have passed KYC start engaging much sooner.
Okay, so it's like getting the keys to your house before the moving truck arrives.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, you get the keys, you can go in, look around, maybe start setting things up.
But the big move, getting all your stuff in, that takes more planning.
Exactly. So this activation expands access while that bigger migration process continues its careful work.
Got it. So for eligible pioneers listening, the place to do this is the Pi Wallet app.
Correct. Inside the Pi browser, find the Pi Wallet app, and you should see the option to get started if you're eligible.
Okay, now let's switch gears to the other big development, making it easier for people who aren't currently Pi users to get involved. How does that work?
This is where things could really accelerate ecosystem growth, I think. Pi is essentially creating a new, more direct on-ramp for non-users.
And the on-ramp.
Yeah, a way to access the Mainnet blockchain and the apps, the ecosystem, but it's being done through specific third-party services, and initially in certain regions.
So someone totally new could potentially get a Pi Mainnet wallet now without going through the whole mining process first.
That's the idea, but, and this is critical, they still need to pass KYC.
Ah, okay, so the verification requirement isn't going away.
Not at all. These third-party services will handle a similar KYC process. The goal is still verified participants, even if they come through a different door.
Now, a question probably on many pioneers' minds. If I've done the original Pi KYC, does this new third-party KYC for newcomers affect my mainnet migration timeline at all?
That's a super important point, and the answer is a clear no. They're completely separate tracks.
Okay.
Passing KYC via a third party is only for that new user to get their Mainnet wallet set up. It has zero impact on the ongoing, complex migration process for existing pioneers. Remember all those analyses we mentioned?
Right, making sure the distribution is fair and secure for long-term pioneers.
Exactly. Two different processes, two different purposes.
Okay, so Pi is essentially what? Delegating KYC authority in a way to these vetted third parties.
You could say that they're exploring expanding KYC capabilities to trusted third parties that meet Pi's standards. They actually call it KYB verification, know your business.
KYB.
Yeah, B for business. It signifies Pi has checked out the company, their compliance, their procedures to make sure they can handle identity verification properly.
But these third parties might have limitations, like they can't handle everyone everywhere.
That's right. Pi mentions these services might have their own constraints on, say, scalability, how many people they can process, and also geographical coverage, so it won't be instantly available worldwide through these partners.
And it's still early days for this approach, like a test phase.
Definitely. They're explicitly calling these integrations a pilot beta phase.
Meaning things could change.
Exactly. They'll be testing, gathering feedback, making adjustments. It might even be paused in some areas as they learn and scale. It's very much an iterative process.
And do we know who the first partner is?
We do. The first KYB-verified third party they've announced is Banksa.
Banxa. Okay, I've heard of them in the crypto space. They're like an on-ramp service.
Precisely. Banksa acts as that bridge, allowing new users in the regions they support to get verified and access the Pi Mainnet.
But again, with geographical limits.
Yes, Banksa has its own list of supported countries, so you'll need to check if it's available where you are. And Pi is actively asking for user feedback on how the Banksa integration works.
This really does seem like a significant shortcut compared to the old way for newcomers.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. Before, someone new had to sign up. Mine consistently remembered the 30-session minimum,
Right.
then do Pi's KYC, then wait for migration.
A much longer journey.
Much longer. This new pathway, if you're in a supported region with a partner like Banksa, drastically cuts down the steps and the time needed just to get a functional mainnet wallet and start participating.
And this also brings up an interesting point about owning real mainnet Pi versus just trading it somewhere else.
Yes, that's a key difference. If you're, say, trading a Pi IOU or something on a centralized exchange, you don't actually hold Pi on the mainnet blockchain itself.
Meaning you can't use Pi apps?
Exactly. You can't interact with the dApps. You can't use it for local commerce if that starts happening. You couldn't participate in something like the .pi domain auction they ran. You're outside the actual ecosystem.
But these new users coming through Banksa, for example.
They will get a proper mainnet wallet. They'll hold Pi on the blockchain and can directly engage with all those aspects of the ecosystem. It's a fundamental difference in participation level.
So pulling this together, what are the main upsides of opening up access like this?
Well, the biggest one has to be utility, right? More people actually holding and being able to use Pi on the mainnet.
Means more potential transactions, more real-world uses.
Exactly. It helps move Pi towards being a functional currency within its ecosystem. It's like turning a potential marketplace into an active one. More participants could spark uses we haven't even thought of yet.
Makes sense. And what about for the developers building apps on Pi? Is this good news for them?
Oh, definitely. A larger user base with active mainnet wallets is huge for developers.
More potential customers, essentially.
More customers, more users for their apps, more transactions happening within those apps, more feedback, more testing. It just fuels the whole development cycle.
Right, it creates a more vibrant environment for building things.
It really does. It could significantly speed up the growth and sophistication of the apps available on Pi. It's a potential game changer for the ecosystem's internal economy.
Sounds positive, but I imagine there's a cautionary note here too, especially with third parties involved.
Absolutely crucial. Pi is really emphasizing that users should only interact with third-party services that are officially listed on the Pi Network KYB Services webpage.
To avoid scams.
Precisely. Go anywhere else, use an unverified service, and you're running a very high risk of fraud or losing your assets. Stick to the official list.
Okay, good warning.
Yeah.
So let's recap quickly. Two main moves to boost mainnet access. First, KYC pioneers can now activate their wallets directly.
Unlocking their participation even before full migration.
And second, a new, faster path for non-users to get a mainnet wallet via vetted, KYB-verified third parties like Banksa, who handle their KYC.
And throughout all this expansion, the core requirements of identity verification and security remain paramount. It's about wider access, but controlled, verified access.
It's definitely a significant shift. Feels like Pi is moving into a new phase, focusing more on ecosystem activity.
It certainly seems that way. Less about just accumulation, more about actual use and interaction.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you listening. Consider this. How might this push for greater yet still verified accessibility shape the future? Not just for Pi, but maybe for blockchain adoption more broadly.
Yeah, what possibilities open up when you make it easier for verified individuals to actually get onto the blockchain and participate? How does that change the dynamic compared to, say, purely speculative trading?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Balancing ease of access with security and genuine participation.
It really is. The evolution of Pi Network and its ecosystem, especially with these changes rolling out, will definitely be something to keep an eye on.